Hey guys, how's it going? Hope you're doing well. My name is Crown, and today I'm going to read you some very interesting stories that I hope that you're gonna love. And now, without further ado, let's go!
After getting laid off from my office job last summer, I needed something to pay the bills while I searched for another position in my field. The department store wasn't my dream job, but it helped keep food on the table and my rent paid. The holiday season had been particularly brutal. 12-hour shifts, constant restocking, and an endless stream of customers who seemed to have left their holiday spirit at home. But yesterday, my last shift before Christmas topped them all. I was running on fumes. 4 hours of sleep, 3 energy drinks, and whatever willpower I had left after a week of closing shifts. The store was packed with last-minute shoppers, and the line at my register stretched halfway to the clothing section. That's when Karen made her grand entrance. She came storming up to my register, cutting in front of the entire line, waving around a kid's coat like it was a flag at a bullfight. I tried to politely inform her about the line of waiting customers, but she cut me off, loudly declaring that she didn't care because our store had humiliated her all day and we needed to fix it right now. She proceeded to tell me how the security tag we'd forgotten to remove had been setting off alarms at every store she visited. Now, this happens sometimes. It's an honest mistake that takes 2 minutes to fix. But Karen wasn't interested in a simple solution. She started frantically searching for her receipt, announcing that she needed to find it so we wouldn't accuse her of stealing. She dug through her purse, pulling out receipt after receipt, one for $1,000 earrings, another for some expensive jewelry, basically throwing them in my face to prove she could afford the $79 coat. The whole time she kept getting louder and more aggressive, insisting that she wouldn't let any of us accuse her of stealing the coat. I verified her purchase through our system and removed the tag. Then she started demanding that we give her the coat for free because of all the embarrassment and humiliation she'd suffered. Then she insisted on speaking to a manager. Before I could even respond, she threw a sweater at me, literally threw it, demanding an exchange for a different size. I tried to ask her politely if I could help the other customers first, since they'd been waiting in line. She refused immediately, shouting that we had wronged her and needed to make it right immediately. The way she was acting, I honestly thought she might get physical. Usually, I wouldn't back down. I might look soft, but I can handle myself. However, after working 6 days straight on minimal sleep, I just didn't have the energy for a confrontation. I apologized to the other customers and started helping Karen with her exchange. That's when one of the customers in line spoke up, saying how ridiculous this was and that Karen needed to get back in line like everyone else. I thought Karen was going to explode. She whirled around and got in the customer's face, threatening to make her regret speaking up. The customer stood her ground, asking Karen if she was really going to assault someone in front of witnesses. Karen responded with a challenge, daring the customer to test her. And then she did it. She actually slapped the customer across the face. The whole store went silent for a second before erupting in chaos. Thankfully, another customer stepped between them before things could escalate further. Security finally arrived with my manager, and that's when things got interesting. Turns out this wasn't Karen's first rodeo at our store. She'd been caught on camera multiple times harassing staff, including one memorable incident where she'd screamed at a department manager, bragging about being a lawyer who could buy and sell them. The police were called, and the customer she slapped decided to press charges. Remember how she kept bragging about being a lawyer? Well, our store's legal team had been building a case against her for months due to her repeated harassment of employees. When the police ran her information, they discovered she wasn't even a lawyer. She'd been disbarred 2 years ago for professional misconduct. The assault charges were just the final nail in the coffin. She was not only banned from our store for life, but from the entire mall complex. She's facing charges for assault and had to appear before a judge to explain her actions. I still work at the store, though I've since found a better position with regular hours. But every now and then, when I'm having a rough day, I think back to Karen's face when the police officer read her rights, and somehow it makes everything a little better. 6 months ago, I moved into this nice 3-bedroom house near my new workplace. I just landed my dream job as a veterinary technician, and the location was perfect. The rent was slightly above my budget, but I figured having 2 roommates would help make it work. The landlady seemed wonderful, and my soon-to-be roommates, 2 sisters, appeared friendly enough during our initial meeting. The first couple of months were actually pretty good. We shared cleaning duties, split utilities fairly, and even had movie nights together. I brought my crafting skills to the house, making various pieces of furniture including a massive cat tower for their cats. I'd also furnished most of the common areas with my stuff since they didn't have much when I moved in. Things started changing when the older sister's boyfriend began staying over more frequently. At first, it was just weekends, then 3 days a week, then practically every day. He wasn't contributing to any bills, ate our food, and hogged the bathroom every morning. When I tried bringing up the increased water bill and suggested we adjust our splitting arrangement to account for him practically living with us, the older sister shut me down immediately. She dismissed my concerns, calling me petty and telling me to mind my own business since he was just her guest. That's when I started noticing the subtle changes. They'd have loud conversations about how some people were too uptight about house rules. They'd leave passive-aggressive notes about the smallest things, like a coffee mug I'd supposedly left in the sink, which wasn't even mine. Last week, things really escalated. I came home from work to find them waiting in the living room. The younger sister initiated what would become a very heated conversation by saying we needed to discuss the living situation. When I asked what was wrong, the older sister launched into a tirade about how I wasn't a good fit for the house anymore, accusing me of being controlling and petty about bills, claiming I made everyone uncomfortable. When I pointed out that I barely saw them anymore except when they were complaining about something I allegedly did wrong, the older sister completely lost it. She started screaming that she hated me and that I wasn't welcome there, becoming so aggressive that the younger sister had to physically hold her back. It was like watching a bad reality TV show. The younger sister then smugly told me that they'd already spoken to the landlady. She claimed they were the heads of the house and had convinced the landlady not to renew my lease in June. After speaking with the landlady myself, I learned they had been feeding her stories about me for weeks. However, she saw through their drama and gave me an out. I could leave anytime without paying for unused days. So yesterday, while they were visiting family, I orchestrated my masterpiece. I called every friend I had and rented a moving truck. We stripped that house of everything I owned, which turned out to be about 70% of the common area furnishings. The curtains I'd sewn myself, gone. The vintage rugs I'd collected, packed up. The custom cat tower that took me and my mom 3 weekends to build, definitely coming with me. I meticulously documented everything with photos and videos showing what belonged to me. I took their random decorations off my shelves and furniture and arranged them neatly in the middle of the now empty living room. It looked like a sad little island of stuff in an ocean of bare floor. Before leaving, I wrote a detailed inventory of everything I'd taken and why it belonged to me, along with copies of receipts I kept. I handed everything, including my keys, to the landlady, who actually gave me a hug and wished me well. I found out from the landlady that the older sister's boyfriend can't actually move in until June due to his lease elsewhere. So now they're stuck either finding a new roommate for 4 months or paying my share of the rent themselves. I'm now cozily settled in my friend's spare room, surrounded by all my belongings, including that magnificent cat tower that the cats will surely miss. I've blocked them everywhere, but the landlady promised to let me know how they react when they return tomorrow to their half-empty house. My name is May, and I'm a 22-year-old college student who works part-time at a busy coffee shop. I'm studying to become a teacher, and I love working with kids. But in the meantime, I enjoy interacting with customers at the coffee shop and learning about their lives. One day, Karen stormed into the shop and walked up to the counter, demanding to be served before anyone else, even though there was a long line of customers waiting patiently. I tried to explain that we had to serve the customers in the order they arrived, but Karen was not having it. A middle-aged lady who was waiting in line spoke up, telling Karen that there was a line and she needed to wait her turn like everyone else. Karen turned to the lady with a sneer, asking who she thought she was to tell her what to do. Karen then declared that she didn't have to listen to anyone because she was a VIP and deserved special treatment. The middle-aged lady responded, saying she didn't care about Karen's supposed VIP status or what she thought she deserved. She explained that this was about being fair and respectful to others, and Karen needed to wait her turn like everyone else. Karen was taken aback by the lady's assertiveness and started to argue with her, raising her voice and causing a scene. She yelled that the lady had no right to talk to her that way, and demanded to speak to the manager to have the lady thrown out. The middle-aged lady stood her ground, telling Karen she wasn't going anywhere. She pointed out that while Karen might be used to getting her way and not following rules, not everyone was afraid of her. She insisted that Karen needed to learn to respect others and wait her turn like everyone else. As the argument between Karen and the middle-aged lady heated up, the other customers in the shop watched in shock. It was clear that Karen was not used to being challenged or confronted, and she was struggling to deal with the situation. Karen then snapped that she didn't have time for this, claiming she had important things to do and shouldn't have to wait like everyone else. She demanded her coffee immediately, threatening to speak to the manager if she didn't get her way. I tried to stay professional, explaining apologetically that I couldn't serve her out of turn because we had to follow certain policies to keep things fair and organized. But Karen was not satisfied. She raised her voice and started causing a scene, demanding to speak to the manager and complaining about the inconvenience of having to wait like everyone else. As the argument between us escalated, I could see that Karen was getting more and more angry. Then she did something that shocked everyone. She grabbed another customer's hot coffee and threw it at me in a fit of rage, just because I wouldn't let her cut the line. I screamed as the scalding coffee hit my skin. My co-workers immediately rushed to help me, while calling emergency services. A tall, muscular customer quickly blocked the exit, preventing Karen from running away. While paramedics treated my burns, the police arrived and took control of the situation. They interviewed multiple witnesses, including my co-workers and the middle-aged lady who had stood up to Karen. Everyone confirmed how Karen had demanded special treatment and assaulted me when she didn't get her way. The police arrested Karen on the spot and charged her with assault. Thanks to all the witness testimonies and security camera footage, Karen was sentenced to 2 years in prison for assault with a dangerous weapon, ordered to pay my medical bills and lost wages, and required to complete both anger management and emotional counseling programs before being eligible for release. Karen lost her job due to the incident and conviction. Her VIP status apparently meant nothing to her former employer. The middle-aged lady who stood up to her became a regular customer, and we always chat when she comes in. She told me she had dealt with entitled people like Karen before and wasn't about to let her bad behavior slide. My burns healed eventually, leaving only minor scarring. I still work at the coffee shop while finishing my teaching degree, but now we have better security protocols in place. I doubt prison will completely fix her entitled attitude, but at least she's facing real punishment for what she did to me. Back in the wild days of the 90s mobile phone industry, I landed my first office job while attending college. The pay was decent, and the schedule worked perfectly with my classes. All I had to do was activate new accounts and run credit checks. Pretty straightforward stuff. The job started great. Sure, we couldn't browse the internet or do coursework during downtime, but I could live with that. The real problem started when November rolled around. My supervisor called me into his office one day and told me about a new mandatory overtime policy. He explained that everyone would need to work at least 10 hours of overtime per week. When I tried to explain that I was a full-time student and could barely manage the regular 40 hours, he simply stated that it wasn't negotiable and everyone had to participate. The situation got even more ridiculous when I found out about the desk sharing situation. They wanted me to stay until 7 p.m., but the person I shared my desk with was supposed to start at 1 p.m. So this poor guy had to come in early and sit in the break room for 2 hours, getting paid overtime to do absolutely nothing. After trying to make it work, I finally went to my manager's office and explained that I had to quit because I couldn't manage the overtime with my class schedule. 2 days later, my phone rang. It was my manager asking if I'd come back and saying we could discuss the overtime situation. When I said I'd only return if I didn't have to work overtime, they told me we'd discuss it when I came in. I should have known better. When I showed up, they pulled me aside and revealed that I'd still need to work the overtime hours. When I pointed out how pointless it was to call me back when they knew I couldn't do the overtime, I ended up quitting again on the spot. Over the next few weeks, I kept in touch with my former co-workers. The company started offering massive bonuses for hitting overtime targets. People were ecstatic. Some were planning to pay off their cars, others were putting down payments on houses. The holiday season was looking bright. Then January came. My friend texted me about an unbelievable situation that had just occurred. They described how people opened their paychecks to find $0 balances. One guy even got a check for 15 cents. The floor erupted in chaos. The upper management came out to address everyone, dropping the bombshell that the bonuses were never approved by corporate and the money needed to be paid back. They explained that everyone would receive $0 paychecks until the balance was cleared. When an employee asked how they were supposed to live, management simply stated that anyone who quit would be sued for the remaining balance. They even had the audacity to tell one employee without a high school diploma that he should be grateful they hired him in the first place. This is where it gets good. In my new job, I was doing night shift support work for a related company, and I had made some friends with government contractors in the building. I reached out to their contacts at the Internal Revenue Service. 1 month later, the hammer came down. The IRS investigators stormed in and demanded to speak with everyone involved in the bonus scheme. Every manager who participated was forced out, facing potential jail time. The company tried to play hardball, threatening that if they had to fire all the managers, they'd have to close the call center. The IRS investigators simply replied that this was fine, but every employee not involved in the scam must either be offered a position at their other location or receive a generous severance package. They also had to repay all the withheld money, plus offer jobs back to anyone who quit during this period. If those people declined to return, they'd get full back pay from their departure date. The company chose to move the employees to their other location and shut down the center. The managers faced criminal charges, and some took plea deals. My old coworker, who got the 15-cent check, ended up getting promoted at the new location. He's now making 3 times what those managers used to make. And now we have reached the end of today's stories. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.